Good evening, Berlin. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah. Please put your phones away and welcome the winner of the Open for Russell Peters contest from Atlanta, Georgia, via Brazil, and now Vienna. Please welcome the very funny Mr. Gus Horn.
What's up, Berlin? Make some noise. Wow, great to be here, man. Let me take my head off so I can see you guys better. This is what happens when you go to a Turkish barbershop and you don't speak Turkish, okay? Yep. That's what happens. You go home and you shave your head. I don't know, man. I don't know if my hair was looking particularly Armenian that day, but he murdered it. Welcome to the comedy show, guys. I should have known it was going to be a bad haircut because I booked this guy online. I didn't know the barber. And I showed up and the barber was bald. That's a bad thing right there. A bald barber has nothing to lose, right? That's like if you scheduled an appointment with an eye doctor, you showed up and the doctor was Stevie Wonder. Like, you better get the fuck out of there. I miss my old barber, man. I had a barber when I lived in the US. Eric was his name. He was Russian, one of the good ones, I think. I don't know his politics. I just liked him because he didn't talk to me, you know? I would come in and he'd be like, hello, sit down. And that was our whole interaction throughout the haircut. But one time I was getting my haircut with Eric, and I was like, hey, Eric, I noticed I'm thinning out a little bit on top. Do you happen to know any home remedies from Russia that could help me with hair loss? And he goes, okay, let me think. And then he went quiet for 2 minutes. And then finally he turned around and goes, okay, here's what you do. You take 12 raw eggs and 1 liter vodka. I was like, okay, what do I do with that? He goes, 12 raw eggs you eat. Raw egg have protein. Protein will make hair grow. I was like, I don't think that's how science works, but all right, what do you do with the vodka? He goes, oh, vodka you drink gets you drunk. You don't give a fuck about your hair when you're drunk, so cheers for hair loss, huh? Yeah, I'm drinking, not. I like drinking alcohol, but it's sober October. I'm taking the whole month off. I do it every year. And it's nice to take a break, you know, because every year I take the whole month of October off. Then November 1st is my birthday, and I get back to drinking. And I realized that for me, drinking alcohol is just like riding a bike, you know? If I don't do it for a while, the first time I do it again, it's a lot of fun. But the next day I wake up and I go, oh boy, why does my ass hurt so much? Yeah, I see some cyclists over here. Nice. But yeah, sometimes I drink too much, though. It doesn't happen too often. Last time it happened was about a year ago. I was in Brazil visiting some friends. It was still during the COVID curfews, right? So the bars had to close at 9 p.m. So I was out with my friends. We got there at 5. I was drinking, pacing myself, thinking I was going to be done by 9, right? And 9 o'clock came around. My friend had this great idea to go to her house and continue to drink over there, all right? And I was already pretty tipsy, all right? Here's how drunk I was. We were driving. We stopped at a red light. And I saw a billboard, and it said the amount of money that the lottery prize was for that week. And it said 150 million. And out loud, my drunk ass goes, oh my God, gas is so expensive around here. So that's what happens before I start drinking whiskey, okay? I don't know what happened for the next 4 hours. I just remember waking up in the back seat of an Uber. I don't know how I got there. I just remember thinking, oh man, I think I might have to throw up, but I think I can make it home. And about 12 seconds later, we went over a speed bump, and I was proven wrong. Projectile vomited inside the Uber, but it was COVID, so I was wearing a mask. Yeah, it caught everything, yep. More of the story is, I don't know if the mask prevents you from getting COVID, but they do prevent you from getting a $200 cleaning fee on your Uber appeal. So that's it, man. A little bit about myself. My name is Gus Horn. I am 29 years old. I currently live in Vienna, Austria. And I don't know if you guys can tell from my accent, but I am fat. Yep. I'm trying to work on it, though. I want to lose some weight. I went to the gym. I met with a trainer. You know, got some help losing weight. The trainer was like, Gus, what are your goals at the gym? Do you want to bulk or do you want to cut? I was like, bro, I want to see my dick again, man. Like, that's my main goal right now. He goes, all right, man, describe for me what a day of eating is like for you. I go, well, for breakfast, I usually like to start with some fruit. He goes, man, you gotta be careful with fruit. A lot of hidden calories, a lot of sneaky sugars in fruit. I was like, dude, you think this was done by fruit, bro? Like, you think kiwi caused this? Like, I got a long list of concerns before pineapple was one of my issues, okay? He goes, look, man, if you want to lose weight, you got to change the way you eat. And recently I did. I became a vegetarian for dessert. I figure if it's going to save a little pig's life, I quit putting bacon on my ice cream, okay? I used to tell this as a joke, and then one day I went to that burger chain, Five Guys, the one they have right next door to here, and they had the option of adding bacon to your milkshakes, and I saw that on the menu, and I was like, that is so disgusting. But 10 minutes later, I was like, that was delicious, man. We should... I'm going to start putting bacon on my fruit in the morning. Yeah. Any of you guys fans of 50 Cent, the rapper 50 Cent? You guys like him? Nice, yeah. He's touring Europe right now. He was just in Vienna where I live. He was there last week, and some friends of mine went, and they were posting videos on social media of 50 Cent. And I found out something about 50 Cent that I did not know before, you know? Is that 50 Cent is now fat. Not fat, but like chubby, you know? He looks like inflation got to him. 50 Cent looks like about 78 cents right now, you know? He looks like he's been taking people to the candy shop and just hanging out afterwards, like, y'all go ahead, I'm gonna see what else I have in the back, right? He debuted his new song in Vienna. It was called I Don't Know What You've Heard About Me, but I've been fucking up some KFC, so. Someone told me, like, don't post that joke online. What if he finds out and he decides to kill you? I was like, that'll be the best way to die, man. Like, I'll become a comedy legend automatically, you know? I don't know. But anyways, I am Brazilian. I grew up in Brazil. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Brazilian flag. What maybe you don't know is that in the middle of the Brazilian flag, the words order and progress are written in Portuguese. And every time I read that, it makes me wonder if the guy who wrote that was being sarcastic. You know? It would be like if the British flag said, great food. Or if the Soviet Union flag said, food, you know, just... It's a little sarcasm, you know? Sometimes I'll go to a Brazilian news website just to read the headlines and laugh a little bit, you know? The other day they had this one that said, according to the health ministry, 135,000 people in Brazil live with the HIV virus and they don't know about it. And I was like, well, I got two questions. First of all, if they don't know about it, how the fuck does the government know about it? And second, why don't you fucking tell them? That's good information to share. Yeah, man. And nowadays I live in Vienna. I've been living there for about 10 months. I moved to Vienna to go to art school. Just kidding, got rejected, so we'll see. Apparently there's not a lot of history students here. If you don't know, Hitler applied to go to art school in Vienna 2 times, got rejected both times, and then took a different career path, so... Sometimes I think about the person who was working at the admissions office of the art school that rejected Hitler, you know? I feel like they would be so freaked out of rejecting anybody else after that. You know what I mean? And I have a theory that maybe that's why contemporary art's such garbage, you know? They're just afraid to say no, right? People are literally taking a shit on the canvas and sending it in, and they're like, well, this is literally shit, but if we say no, who knows, right? And if you didn't like this joke, it's fine. It's contemporary art, so. Vienna. My best friend said he wanted to come to visit me in Vienna. He was like, Gus, I want to come visit you, but I don't want to do any of the touristy stuff. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I want to experience Vienna the way a local experiences Vienna. I was like, oh, you want to go to work? I don't know if my job is hiring, but I can ask, you know. He goes, no, man, I want to experience a weekend in Vienna the way you experience a weekend in Vienna. I was like, buddy, you don't have to fly overseas to come watch Netflix with me, okay? Plus, I live in a studio apartment. It's going to get really awkward when it's masturbation time, so maybe let's do this over Skype, all right? I don't get when people say that kind of stuff. One time I met a guy who goes, oh, I'm not a tourist, I'm a traveler. I was like, you're a douchebag, that's what you are. He goes, no, man, you don't understand. When you travel, you got to stay at a youth hostel, otherwise you won't get the full traveler's experience. I was like, yeah, maybe, but you know what else you won't get? Bed bugs. So you won't get an unexplained rash on your side when you wake up, and you won't get an Australian girl getting railed by a Dutch guy on the bunk on top of you. with a Japanese guy standing right here watching because the first time he's seen non-pixelated sex in his life. So that's what you might miss out on, you know? I don't know, man. I say do the touristy thing, you know? I say go to Paris, go see the Eiffel Tower. Go to Rome, go see the Colosseum. Go to Amsterdam, get a blowjob from a Romanian girl, you know? Just do the touristy thing. Amsterdam's cool. It's a cool city, right? It's cool because they have like the big attractions and then some other cool stuff that's less known. I went there one time. I went to the Hide and Seek Museum. Yeah, I think the official name was the Anne Frank House, but oh, all right, guys, come on. People often ask me about my culture shocks of moving to Vienna, and I know it's a little cliche about Austria and maybe even here, but I gotta say it's the customer service. The biggest difference between the American customer service and the Austrian one is that in America we have it. Yep. One time I was thank you. One time I was walking around Vienna and there's a place called Karlsplatz. They have a museum there. I wanted to get information on tickets, but I didn't want to be the foreigner that assumes that people speak English, right? So I walked up to the window and I go, "Excuse me, sir, can I speak English?" And the Austrian guy working there goes, "I know I can speak English. I don't know if you can." So I was like, "Oh, fuck off and go home. It's fine. I don't need to." But as always, I always like to ask people about culture shocks. One time, not too long ago, I went on a date with a German girl, and we went getting a drink. And I was like, "What's your culture shock coming from Germany?" She's like, "Oh, there wasn't really a big one. It was not that different." And then we went to see a movie afterwards, and we were in line to get popcorn in the movie theater. And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's a big culture shock because here in Germany we eat sweet popcorn at the movie theater, and in Austria they eat salty popcorn." Which was an interesting observation because about 3 days before that I was doing a show and I asked a girl in the crowd who happened to be from India what was her biggest culture shock. And she goes, "Well, when I moved to Europe, I could finally experience freedom for the first time. I could be who I was and do the things I wanted to do," right? Fast forward 3 days, this German girl was like, "I don't know what this salty popcorn bullshit is about, but I ain't having it." And then one time I was doing a show and there was a guy right here and I asked him where he was from. He goes, "Oh, I'm half Iranian and half Israeli." Yeah, there's a name for that, right? Double agent, yeah. I asked him, what was it like growing up in those countries? And he goes, "Oh, it's tough, man, because I could never feel like I could fit in, you know? When I was in Iran, I felt like I was the foreign Israeli. And when I was in Israel, I felt like I was the foreign Iranian guy, so I could never fit in." And, you know, I could really relate to that because being a fat guy in Europe is, there's a lot of times that I cannot fit in literally here. Because America is built for fat people, but not Europe. So when I first moved to Austria, I needed to get a winter jacket, and I didn't bring one with me. So the regular stores don't have my size, right? So I had to Google big and tall stores in Vienna, and I found this one. And I'm walking into like the main shopping street. And there's a big store with giant block letters outside. There's a sign that says the word "gross." I had just moved here. I didn't know any German, right? So I read that in English, and I go, "Gross, I know, but you don't have to put it on the fucking wall outside." You don't go to Victoria's Secret and see sluts outside, so... But eventually I found out what that meant. I found out it was during a bad date. I matched with this girl on Tinder. I knew it was going to be bad because she didn't have a profile picture. Yeah, just a glass of beer. And her profile was really short to her bio. Only 3 things. It says, "I'm wheeling, I'm easy, and I have an athletic body." And I was like, you know, what's the worst thing that could happen, you know? Probably murder, but anyways, I went over there. And then when they opened the door, it happened to be 50 Cent. No, just kidding. No, it was a girl, and to her credit, she did have an athletic body. Yeah, she did, because sumo wrestlers are athletes too. Yeah. It wasn't great, but I was like, I'm not going to waste a trip. So we get in there, we're starting getting things going, and then eventually I take down my pants, and she looks at my dick, and she goes, "Oh, gross, gross, gross." I was like, "Bitch, you're gross." Like, And apparently she spoke a little bit of Spanish, which I do too. And she goes, "Oh no, grande, grande." And I was like, "Oh, she wasn't being mean. She was just lying." Yeah. Who hasn't had COVID? Anybody here has not had COVID in 3 years, almost? You guys? Congratulations. Good job. I hate to break it to you, that probably changes tonight. There's 2,000 people here, 0 masks, so call your boss on your way home, quarantine for a few days. I've had it 2 times. First time I had it was in 2020, got the first edition, early release. And then second time I tested positive was yesterday. No. I'm kidding, I stopped testing a long time ago. First time I had it was a little rough, second time was pretty easy. First time I had some symptoms, main ones were loss of smell and diarrhea. So not a bad combo if you think about it. It's like COVID created and solved the problem at the same time, right? Yeah. It's incredible how much my attitude towards the pandemic changed as it went on, In March of 2020, I was all in with the guidelines. I was like, don't leave the house unless you really have to. And if you do, put on 2 masks, gloves, butt plug, cover everything. And then by May of 2020, I was like, bro, if I die, I die, all right? I'll do the bare minimum I have to. I remember one time I was in a public restroom and my mask fell on the ground. And I was like, 5-second rule, and just put it back on. But it's good to see y'all here. You survived the latest wave, that's good. Survived the latest wave of Me Too's, that's good. You guys remember #MeToo? If you're a guy, you're supposed to. Apparently 5 years ago, some dudes found out you're not supposed to rape, so took them a while, but hopefully it's getting through it. I was in close proximity to someone who seemed symptomatic to me too, all right? Let me explain. There was before the pandemic, I don't know if they had it here, but in the US, there was a thing called Uber Poo. So you go into your Uber app, and if there was anybody around you going the same general direction as you, they would offer you to share the ride with that stranger, and that way you could save between 20 and 30 cents. And yeah, it was a great deal. And one time I was in Philadelphia, and I took this option, and I got in the back seat of the car. We drove around for a block or so. A very attractive young lady got in the front seat of the car. And then her and the driver having a nice conversation all throughout the ride. They're talking about the last movies they went to see, how they like going bowling, the gyms they worked out at. Have a nice little chat, right? So we get to her house. She gets out the car, closes the door. The Uber driver looks at me through the mirror, and he goes, "Hey, man, I usually don't do this when I'm driving for Uber, but I felt like there was a connection between her and I. I felt like I should have asked for her number. What do you think?" And I'm in the back seat, I'm very jokingly, very sarcastically. I go, "Well, bro, at least you know where she lives, right?" To which he turned around and goes, "Oh, thanks, man. I didn't even think of that." And I was like, "Oh, fuck. Am I going to get a secondhand Me Too here?" Like, fuck. But, yeah. Anyways, this is fun. Can I share an embarrassing thing that happened to me recently? There's a lot of people here, so it's kind of hard to keep it a secret, but it's hard to say this out loud, but I fell asleep during a blowjob. Let me tell you, there's no worse way to wake up than by having someone shaking you, screaming at you, going, "Gus, Gus, you're biting my cock." Yeah, that takes a second usually. All right. Let me ask you this. Have you ever interacted with someone at work that they were so stupid that made you wonder who didn't get that job? You know what I mean? Sometimes I want to walk up to HR and be like, "Hey, can I read the CV of the people who got rejected? Because if that's the best you could find, it's going to be a funny read, I work with this guy. I managed to convince him that over lunch that Michael Jordan was the president and founder of the country Jordan. You know how they say that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room? I was like, "Buddy, you're fine. You stay right here." I've been doing some job searching. I went on that website, LinkedIn. If you're not familiar with LinkedIn, it's basically Facebook for people who gave up on their dreams. And yeah, I found out they have a thing on LinkedIn. It's called the one-click apply feature. So you fill out your information, put your CV in there, and then you can apply to a bunch of jobs with just one click, which for me is great, because I'm very lazy. So like in 4 minutes, I applied to 67 different jobs, and 66 of which I wasn't even remotely qualified for. For example, I applied to be the Chief Financial Officer of Bank of America. They were like minimum experience requirement, 25 years. I'm like, I'm 29, I got 4 extra, I also applied to be the general manager of the Tokyo Zoo. Why? Because one click, who gives a shit? And I've always wanted to know if zebras have black dicks or white dicks. I've been on a quest to find out that information. It's been bugging me. Is it gray? Is it striped? Does it depend on which line of the body it lines up with? Because that would be a shame if you were a zebra with a white dick and you missed out on a black dick because, Another 2 centimeters, I would have had another 10 centimeters. Fuck. Yeah. I struggle with job interviews. I'm not too good at job interviews. I think I'm a bit too honest. Apparently, snorting cocaine off of a stripper's ass is not what they want to hear when they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah, they said they valued honesty, but I guess not really. But I went back on LinkedIn. I was reading this article, right? It was this article about the top skills that employers are looking for in 2022. And according to this article, the most important thing you got to have if you want to get hired this year is creativity, they claim, creativity. And I thought about it for a second. It makes sense for some jobs. If you're into marketing or architecture, you want those people to be creative, right? But then other jobs, not so much, like airplane pilot. Like, maybe stick to the fucking procedures, buddy. Like, here's what you never want to hear on a plane, okay? Welcome aboard. This is your captain speaking from the cockpit. Today we're starting a new company-wide creativity initiative. Therefore, I'll be attempting to land the plane backwards. Hashtag YOLO. I feel like most of the times when the pilots come on the speaker, they share some useless information, right? They always thank you for choosing to fly with them, right? Here's your captain. Want to thank you for choosing to fly with us. I was like, bro, this is a Ryanair flight. I didn't choose to be here, man. Like, this is my only option, okay? They also always tell you the location from where they're speaking from for some reason, right? Here's your captain speaking from the cockpit. Bitch, I hope so. Like, it'd be a real issue if he was anywhere else, Here's your captain speaking from the bathroom in the back of the plane. Turns out having sushi at the Budapest airport is not a good idea. And also, why do they call it a cockpit? That's a weird name for... It's a good name for a gay bar, but... I wonder what that meeting was like, The CEO called everyone in. It's like, hey, what are we going to call the place where the pods are going to seat? And someone goes, how about the pods room? And it was like, that'd be 2 on the nose. And then some perv on the back goes, how about the dick dungeon? And it was like, that's a little too aggressive. What else have you got, buddy? He goes, how about the cockpit? He goes, that's the creativity I'm looking for right there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That was my time. You guys are great. Have a great night. Enjoy Resto Peters. Good night. Bye.
You can run